Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809, in a small wooden cabin in Kentucky, where his family lived a simple and difficult life, surrounded by poverty and endless hard work, yet filled with love, hope, and the belief that honesty and effort could shape a better future. His childhood was not filled with comfort or luxury, but with the sound of the axe hitting wood, the sight of open fields, and the endless lessons of survival that taught him to value patience, kindness, and perseverance more than anything else. Lincoln had very little formal education, but his hunger for learning was stronger than any obstacle, and he would often read books late into the night beside the dim light of a burning log, dreaming of a world where knowledge could change a person's destiny. As a young man, he worked in field split rails and took small jobs to support his family, always carrying with him the reputation of being hardworking and honest, a man whose word could be trusted by everyone who knew him. Though life was hard, Lincoln's mind was rich with curiosity. He loved stories, history, and people, and he always believed that character and compassion mattered more than money or power. Over time, he began working in small local stores and later studied law on his own by reading every legal book he could find, slowly building the foundation for the man who would one day lead a nation. His honesty earned him deep respect, and people began calling him Honest Abe, a name that perfectly captured his nature and his commitment to truth and fairness in everything he did. Lincoln entered politics not for fame or wealth, but because he believed that ordinary people deserved a voice, and he wanted to make their lives better through justice and equality. He believed that every person, rich or poor, white or black, should have the same rights under God, and that no man should own another, because freedom was the birthright of every human being. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected as the 16th President of the United States, a historic victory that brought hope to millions but fear and anger to others who wanted to keep slavery alive. The country was deeply divided, and soon several southern states decided to leave the Union, believing they could not live under a president who opposed slavery. This decision led to one of the darkest times in American history, the beginning of the Civil War. A war not just over land or power, but over the very soul of the nation. The Civil War tore families apart, destroyed cities, and left the country bleeding, but Lincoln stood firm, believing that the Union must be preserved at any cost. His heart ached for the soldiers who fought and for the mothers who waited for sons who would never return, yet his belief in freedom and unity never broke. In 1863, after years of struggle, he made one of the most important decisions in history. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring freedom for all slaves in the Confederate States. That single act changed the meaning of the war forever, transforming it from a fight to preserve the Union into a fight for human freedom and equality. For millions of enslaved people, Lincoln's words were like light breaking through darkness, a promise that justice could finally reach even the most forgotten souls. His enemies hated him for it, and even some of his allies doubted him, but Lincoln never turned back because he knew that moral courage mattered more than political safety. Through endless sleepless nights and countless letters of grief, he carried the burden of every decision, praying for the strength to guide his divided nation back to peace. He visited soldiers at camps and hospitals, listening to their stories, shaking their hands, and giving them comfort, showing that true leadership is not about distance, but about compassion. The war dragged on for 4 painful years, filled with blood, sacrifice, and loss. But Lincoln's faith in the Union never faded, even when victory seemed impossible. Finally, in April 1865, the war came to an end, and the Union was saved, slavery was abolished, and a new dawn of freedom began to rise across the land. The victory was not one of triumph or celebration for Lincoln, but of relief and quiet gratitude, for he knew that peace had come at a terrible cost. In his second inaugural address, he spoke words that would live forever. With malice toward none, with charity for all, reminding the nation to heal wounds with forgiveness, not hate. He wanted a future where North and South could live together again, not as enemies, but as one people united under liberty and law. The people loved him more than ever, calling him the savior of the Union, the man who had restored faith in humanity. But destiny had one last cruel twist for him. Just days after the war ended, he went to a theater in Washington to watch a play. There, on the night of April 14th, 1865, he was shot by an assassin named John Wilkes Booth, a man filled with hate and revenge. The news spread like wildfire across America. People could not believe that the man who had guided them through war was gone forever. Bells rang across cities and villages, and people cried in the streets, mourning not just a president, but a father figure who had carried their pain as his own. The United States buried him with tears, honor, and love, knowing that no leader could ever replace the heart and wisdom of Abraham Lincoln. His death felt like the final sacrifice for the nation he saved, and even in death, he united people in shared grief and gratitude. Monuments were built in his memory, and his face was placed on coins, currency, and the hearts of generations yet to come. The Lincoln Memorial stands tall in Washington, D.C., not just as stone, but as a living symbol of freedom, equality, and courage. Every year, people visit it to sit in silence before his statue, feeling the strength and peace of the man who gave everything for his country. Lincoln became more than a man. He became an idea. The idea that honesty, courage, and compassion can save a nation even in its darkest hour. He proved that leadership is not about pride or power, but about truth, patience, and service to others. His dream of equality became the moral foundation for America's future, inspiring leaders and movements for generations to come. From Martin Luther King Jr. to ordinary citizens, Lincoln's vision continued to guide those who fought for justice and human dignity. He showed that the greatest power lies not in ruling others, but in lifting them up and giving them hope. His story reminds the world that no matter how poor or uneducated you are, your principles can change history if your heart is true. From a log cabin to the White House, Lincoln's journey was proof that greatness begins with humility and grows through perseverance. He taught that freedom must always be defended, even when it demands great sacrifice, and that peace must be built on understanding, not revenge. Abraham Lincoln's life became the measure of integrity, compassion, and leadership for every president who followed. His courage in the face of hatred and war still stands as an example for all who seek to unite rather than divide. More than a century later, his voice still echoes through the words he spoke and the lives he touched, reminding humanity that justice must always overcome cruelty. The America he saved continues to grow upon the foundation he built, a foundation of equality, democracy, and hope for all. Lincoln's memory shines through history like a light that never fades, guiding future generations to believe in goodness and truth. His journey was not one of power or wealth, but of service and sacrifice, proving that true greatness lives in the heart, not in the throne. Abraham Lincoln, the man who saved America, lives forever as a symbol of freedom, compassion, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity.